smelled of frost. At the corner booth sat Frank Dawson, 81 years old, thin as a rail, but sitting upright with the dignity only a lifetime of discipline created. His denim jacket carried the faded patches of wars nobody talked about anymore. Korea, Vietnam, and ghosts he never explained. Every morning, Frank ordered the same thing: black coffee, scrambled eggs, and a newspaper. The diner staff adored him. He tipped generously, smiled often, and never complained. But today, trouble entered with heavy boots. 3 young men swaggered inside, all leather jackets, loud voices, and arrogance. Locals recognized them, small-town bullies who picked on whoever couldn't fight back. They grabbed a table, but one of them, Ricky Madsen, noticed Frank sitting alone. "Look at Grandpa over there," Ricky smirked. "Old fossil taking up a whole booth." His friend laughed. "Bet he can't even hear us." But Frank did hear. He simply chose silence, keeping his eyes on the paper. Ricky didn't like being ignored. He walked over, hands in pockets, towering over the elderly man. "Hey, old man," he said loudly, "you're in my seat." Frank looked up slowly. "Son, there are plenty of empty seats in this diner." Ricky sneered. "Did I ask for your opinion?" Maggie, the owner, hurried over. "Ricky, leave him alone. Frank's been coming here longer than you've been alive." Ricky shoved her hand away. "Stay out of this." And then, before anyone could move, he slapped the 81-year-old veteran across the face. The diner went silent. Frank didn't lift a hand. He didn't shout. He just sat there, cheek burning red, eyes full of quiet hurt. The man had survived wars, lost friends, and endured more pain than these boys could imagine, but humiliation still stung. Ricky laughed. Pathetic. He turned to walk away. The bell above the door rang. All heads snapped toward the entrance. Standing there were 4 massive bikers, leather vests heavy with patches, engines still rumbling outside. And leading them was a man whose presence filled the diner like thunder. Dean Dawson, Frank's son. He was broad-shouldered, tattooed, and unmistakably a member of the Hells Angels, a man whose reputation traveled faster than his bike. Behind him stood Crash, Timber, and Ghost, brothers of the road, each with a stare that could freeze steel. Dean was smiling when he walked in, but the moment he saw his father's red cheek, the smile died. "Dad, who did that to you?" Frank tried to wave him off. "Dean, let it go." Ricky laughed from across the room. "That's your old man. Didn't think a guy like you would have a fossil for a dad." Dean turned. The temperature of the room changed. Crash stepped forward, cracking his knuckles. Timber pulled off his gloves, slow, and Dean didn't shout, didn't rush. He simply walked toward Ricky with the calm of a man who had already decided the outcome. Ricky stepped back, suddenly unsure. Hey, it was just a joke." Dean grabbed him by the shirt and slammed him against the wall so hard the ketchup bottles shook. "You slapped my father," Dean said in a low, deadly voice, "and you think it's a joke?" Ricky's friends fled out the door, leaving him alone and trembling. "Please," Ricky squeaked. Dean leaned closer. "My father fought wars so punks like you could grow up safe. You don't get to disrespect him, not while I'm breathing." He didn't hit Ricky. He didn't need to. Fear did the work. Dean dragged him outside and tossed him face first into the snow. "You ever walk into this diner again, ever breathe near my old man, I won't be this gentle." The Hells Angels stood like a wall behind their president, silent and unmovable. Ricky crawled away, wet and shaking, his pride shattered. Back inside, Dean returned to Frank's booth. "Dad, you okay?" Frank sighed, touching his cheek. "I've taken worse. You didn't have to intervene." Dean sat down across from him. "I'll always intervene." Maggie brought fresh coffee, her hands still trembling. "Thank you, Dean." Dean shook his head. "You take care of him every morning. Today was my turn." Crash, Timber, and Ghost filled the nearby booth, keeping watch, protective of the old man they all respected. Frank looked around the diner, people smiling at him, nodding, grateful he was safe. He blinked back tears. "Son," Frank said softly, "you didn't need to bring the whole club." Dean grinned. "Dad, you're family." They'd ride through fire for family. And for the first time that morning, Frank Dawson smiled. Not because he'd been defended, but because after 81 years of surviving war, loss, and loneliness, He knew he would never face anything alone again.